Hey everybody, in this video, we're going to talk about really one of the things that maybe you should do if you're moving to Indianapolis and you want to get to know the city just a little bit better. We're going to talk about the CANAL and White River State Park in downtown Indianapolis, so stay tuned. Hey everybody, I'm Jason Compton with the Compton Home Group. Welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living in Indianapolis or moving to Indianapolis, then make sure you hit the subscribe button, tap that little bell so you're notified every time we do a new video, each and every week. Now we have people that reach out to us from all over the country with questions about Indianapolis, neighborhoods in Indianapolis, the suburbs of Indianapolis. So if you have questions at all about any of those things, then don't hesitate to reach out. We'll always have your back with those questions, and we'll always have your back whenever it comes time for you to make your move to Indianapolis. Okay, so in this video, if you are thinking about moving to Indianapolis and you really don't know anything about it other than doing a little bit of research online, like maybe you're doing right now, trying to find some videos about Indianapolis and just what it's like to live there, and you've got a little bit of time to visit, and you want to get a feel for what Indianapolis is really like. Of course, now to do that, you're going to need a lot of time because Indianapolis is a big city. There's a lot to offer in the city itself, but then you can get outside the city and just near Indianapolis. In fact, even some of the suburbs, they have a lot to offer and are actually pretty cool places to visit. Lots and lots to do. So to do that in a day, it's going to be really difficult. To do it in a weekend, it's going to be difficult. To do it over the course of a week, actually, it's probably going to be really difficult and exhausting as well. You actually need to spend some time in the city. But if you only had really one day or one weekend to spend in Indianapolis, then this might be one of the things that you could do to just get a little bit a better idea, a better sense as to what Indianapolis is really like. So you can spend some time on the CANAL and White River State Park, especially White River State Park, and all it has to offer and everything around White River State Park. So this particular area of Indianapolis is really popular for a lot of people, even people that live in Indianapolis or really close by. I don't live in Indianapolis proper, but I have before in the past. I live just outside of Indianapolis now, but I will come to White River State Park, all the areas surrounding it. My wife and I will come into that area and do things. You can bring the kids to that area as well. Kids are still a little bit young, but have plans on bringing them to some of the attractions in there and very close to all of that really, really soon. But if I were to take a person and just plunk them down in Indianapolis for a day, this right here is probably going to keep them really pretty busy. So first of all, the CANAL and White River State Park, where they're located, is right downtown Indianapolis. It's just a little on the west side of Indianapolis, but if you were to park pretty much anywhere in downtown, and a lot of people when they think of downtown, they'll think of Monument Circle, which is kind of the hub of what was really truly officially downtown long time ago. Monument Circle is sort of the center of Miles Square. But if you were to park anywhere near there, even to the east or the south or the north of it, let's say you were at a Pacers game at Bankers Life Fieldhouse on the east side of downtown, or at a Colts game on the south side of downtown at Lucas Oil Stadium, you could be parked there and walk over to White River State Park without really much of an issue. Going from Bankers Life to White River State Park is a little further walk, but it's still incredibly walkable. There's no doubt about that. So in fact, all of downtown Indianapolis is exceptionally walkable. Now first, the CANAL is actually just a really neat place to be. And my wife, when she and I met many years ago, she lived downtown, not right along the CANAL, actually along Mass Ave, which is a super popular place for shops and restaurants and nightlife. She lived there, and we would go over to the CANAL to walk and to run quite often. So you can run up one side of the CANAL and down the other side, and it's actually just really beautiful, especially beautiful in the summer and the fall. But there are little shops and little events and little restaurants happening along the CANAL a good portion of the year. Of course, the shops and the restaurants are there all year long, but events will happen throughout the year along the canal too. So you may have seen some of the gondolas. You can rent a gondola and have somebody give you a ride up and down the canal. You know, if you want to, it's something to do for sure. You can ride your bike or, like I said, walk or run up and down the canal and visit some of those shops and restaurants. or just do it for the heck of it, just for the run or the walk. Plus, there are apartments and townhomes and things like that along the canal too. It's just a really pretty place that it's extremely walkable, also very safe, and just a neat place to be downtown. But that can help to give you a little bit of the vibe of what's going on in the downtown area of Indianapolis, or just Indianapolis in general. But near there, near the canal, is White River State Park. So this is where kind of a hub of so many things that are going on in Indianapolis. And I'll say one of my favorite things to do in Indianapolis is live music. So Indianapolis is a great place for live music. It's sort of a hub in the Midwest other than Chicago. Of course, Chicago's a huge city, and a lot of bands, a lot of acts will go through there, but they'll hit Indianapolis too. I think a lot of people across the country would be pretty surprised at how good the music scene is in Indianapolis. There's some really big venues for really big bands to play, like Lucas Oil Stadium, Bankers Life Fieldhouse, and then you've also got Ruoff Music Center up in Noblesville, which is a huge outdoor amphitheater, seats 20 to 30,000 people, depending on how many they stuff in the lawn area of it. But one of my favorite things to do down in White River State Park is to go to what used to be called the lawn at White River State Park. Now it's the amphitheater, because it's been completely redone, and it is incredibly nice outdoor music center, or amphitheater for that matter. And it has a huge lawn, really incredible as far as just going there and have some flexibility to move around at a concert. And it's right downtown, so the skyline is there. Usually it's just beautiful in the summer to actually see a show down there. You're kind of facing off to the west and see the sunset while you're watching the concert. It's just a super cool place to be. But just across the street from that, and I mean directly across the street from that, is one of the best places that you can go as a family, and that's at Victory Field, which is where the Indianapolis Indians play. That's the Indianapolis Indians, which is the AAA farm club for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So it's professional baseball. It's not Major League Baseball. It's just one step below that. So it's still incredible baseball, but the ballpark is one of the best in the country. So it's small enough, you know, it's not a huge major league stadium where you can kind of get lost in it. It's small enough to be accessible, at least for the most part, from anywhere, or at least you can get from one side of the stadium to the other pretty easily. And the whole outfield is a lawn. So you can bring a blanket, you can sit out there. It gives you a lot of flexibility with the kids. You don't have to worry about being in super tight space in a super crowded situation with a lot of other people and your small kids. They can get up, walk around, run a little bit, and you don't have a whole lot to worry about out there in the outfield. And again, it's right in downtown Indianapolis. If you're in the grandstand in some of those seats, then you're looking out at the skyline of Indianapolis, which is just super, super cool. So those two things are kind of the big hubs of White River State Park in that particular area. They are just some of the neatest things to do, even with the entire family. But of course, right down there, just across the river, the White River, which is why it's named White River State Park, you've got the Indianapolis Zoo. So if you're talking about being in town with the kids, the Indianapolis Zoo is a fantastic zoo. It's actually the trifecta. It's a zoo, it's a botanical garden, and it's an aquarium. So it has all of those things to offer. And actually going through the entire zoo, you know, we're talking about getting down to this particular area for a weekend. It's gonna take you a good day probably to get through the entire zoo. It's gonna be pretty difficult to do, but plenty to do there, obviously, especially if you have kids. Even if you don't have kids and you like that kind of thing, then it's right there pretty much within walking distance. You just have to get across the river, and there are a couple of different ways to do that fairly easily in order to access it from White River State Park. Then also near there, you've got the museums. So first you've got the State Museum, which is an incredible museum for art, for science, architecture. It is a really super, it's hard to describe exactly how cool the State Museum really is without seeing it in person, but it's extremely unique. And then speaking of unique, you've got the Idle Museum, which is a museum that is dedicated to Western culture and Native Americans and indigenous people here of the United States. Very, very unique museum and absolutely super cool to visit if you've never done that before. But that's right there within walking distance of everything in White River State Park. Plus, in addition to that, the NCAA has made its headquarters in Indianapolis, and the NCAA headquarters are located right there, White River State Park. So you can go to the NCAA museum, you can spend some time there. Of course, you could spend a lot of time there just going through and taking all of that in, and just the building and the facility and the area around it is tremendous just to go and to hang out. It's really actually quite beautiful. So In addition to that, right nearby is NIFS, the National Institute of Fitness and Sport. It's one of the biggest gyms in the entire area. They have a ton of members there, and it's a neat place to go and get into anything sport related that you want to, even if it is just for the day. But this facility is right there in that particular area as well. Now, White River State Park is pretty much going on and happening all year long, but one of the biggest events that happens down there every single year is at Military Park, just on the north side of White River State Park, another park. That's where the Indianapolis 500 Festival, it actually kicks off with the mini marathon. It's usually the first weekend in May, and it starts downtown. It goes down through White River State Park, out past the zoo, goes out to the track, runs around the track, and then all the way back. So it's a 13.1 mile race, and it's biggest half marathon in the entire world. There's about 35,000 or so. It sells out every single year. 35,000 or so runners that run in that every year, but then it ends at Military Park down there in White River State Park in that particular area. So all of that is exceptionally walkable, and it's a huge, huge festival in that first weekend in May, and the race, of course, is the end of May. But there's stuff going on all May long for the Indianapolis 500. But this particular area is the hub, essentially, of what's going on for that. So if you're visiting Indianapolis and you come in on that weekend in May and you think this is a little bit too much, know that it's not quite like that all year long. It's just one of the huge events that happens down there. But Military Park is host to a lot of other events throughout the entire year. So if you come in on a weekend and there's a lot going on down there at Military Park and White River State Park, right next door, just know that that does happen from time to time. It can give you a pretty good indication of a lot of the things that are going on in that particular area. So to sum up, if you're coming to Indianapolis and you've got a really limited amount of time to spend here just to get a feel for the city, the Canal, White River State Park, and just that entire area would be a great place to start, just to see some of the personality of Indianapolis. There are plenty of other places I would say you probably need to go, but you're gonna need more time. You're gonna need a lot more time than just a couple of days to figure that stuff out and really get a good experience. So if you have questions about moving to Indianapolis or what you should do when you're here to try to get a feel outside of this, then don't hesitate to reach out. And until the next one, we'll see you later.